Welcome to the Marlene Saunders Show, where we have real talk, real conversations, and you're welcome to it. If it's your first time here, subscribe to this channel. I do podcasts Monday to Friday, Eastern Standard Time. Welcome to the Blah, Blah, Blah podcast. Hey everybody, it's Marlene. How are you doing, chat family? Another wonderful day. I hope everybody is doing amazing. Thank you so much for stopping by and clicking on this live stream or this replay. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. So let me go to the chats. Yes, please like and share. I'd really appreciate it. And good morning, Miss Tamika. How are you doing? Welcome in. I hope all is well with you. Happy Tuesday to you. Thank you so much for your support as always. So let's get into this topic for today. Today, we're going to be talking about those who are ignored and abused in today's society. And that is the incarcerated and the homeless. And it's a growing problem. It's not something that I don't believe it will ever end. Um, I don't believe it's something that will ever end. It's something, unfortunately, that we're going to have to deal with as long as, you know, change, something major is going to have to change for that to change. And in this society that we live in, a lot of things, people see it, but they act like they don't see it. They act like they don't know. They act like they don't understand. And it really saddens me that the incarcerated and those who have some mental health issues are thrown away in this society that we live in, under the government, under so many issues that are involved in those who are incarcerated and those who are homeless. And I feel that it's a major issue, it's a major problem, and it's a growing problem. So first, I want to talk about those who are incarcerated. We know that there are many people who are in the system. Some are actually, I know that I'm going to probably get some shade for this, but I believe that there are some that are incarcerated that do not belong there. They just got caught up in probably a bad crowd. And also, there are some who are innocent. They have been wrongly accused. And I'm not diminishing the ones that have done and committed these heinous crimes. I don't mean those. I mean the ones that are incarcerated. And even if somebody has done wrong, the conditions that I have seen of the homeless, not the homeless, of the incarcerated, the conditions in the jails, sometimes them not being able to have um, food that is actually edible. Sometimes the food that they're getting is food that has been spoiled. It's not even food that you would even give to your pet, and it is given to those who are incarcerated. And that's one of the things that I've seen, and I definitely want to present this information that I have seen. Let me share my screen so that I can show the files of this. Let me share. Let me see if it's sharing now. Hold on. I think it is sharing. I'm going to remove myself from the screen so you guys can see this. Let me go back over to this and move the screen up. Okay, so according to Google here, I see the statistics for those who are incarcerated, and it says that the final statistics in the report of prisoners back in 2022, that there was 1,230,100 on December 31st, 2022, a 2% increase from the year before. So, and it goes up every day. People are incarcerated every single day in the United States. And another unknown fact is that the highest population of prisoners are most in the state of Texas, the most out of any state, and California, Florida, Georgia, Ohio are the top four states that have the highest amount of prisoners in the United States. And it's something that is just continuously growing. It's a growing issue, and it doesn't seem that it's being fixed, that anybody is thinking about it, that anybody is caring about those who are incarcerated. Hi, PNG Media News, how are you doing? Welcome. Nobody is really thinking about those who are incarcerated. Let me remove this banner. Nobody's really thinking about those who are incarcerated, and the conditions that they're living in, and even like ways to help them once they get released back into society. They're just thrown back into the population, and they're thrown into the deep end. And of course, they say, don't reoffend for whatever crime that you have committed, whatever wrong it is that you have done. And if they are not getting this, some sort of skill, some way to help them to get back into society, ignoring them and just letting them, get released. They get put out on parole. And they're put out. And most of the time, the ones that are incarcerated do become homeless because they can't deal with the day to day in the regular life of society, probably going to get a job. They just have not dealt with that. The ones that have been incarcerated for a long time, they're used to a controlled environment, and then they get thrown out there and they're expected to be just like everybody else, and they really aren't. They're really going through a lot of things. And when I was looking at this, it was saying that what country has the harshest prisons, and that one place was the worst in the entire world is Black Dolphin Prison in Russia, and Nairobi Prison in Kenya. Those are the worst two in the entire world. And rounding out the top three is North Korea at Camp 22. They said this is the harshest prisons, and the conditions that they get in those countries. They do not provide the prisons with food. The families have to provide the inmates with food. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I was just wanting to do the stream because I was wondering what you all think is the solution for this. Thank you so much, PNG. I really appreciate it. And Miss Simika says that's right. There has to be some way to fix the problem, and not that it can be fixed 100%, because there's no way that you can fix 100% the issues that's going on in society. And I'm not talking about the ones that commit these heinous crimes, and they do all of these big things, but I'm talking about the ones that have committed petty crimes, or the ones that may have been caught up in being with the wrong people and just got caught up in the system. Now they're put out, probably after spending 10, 15, 20 years. They have no friends. They don't have skills. A lot of them do not have education. Most did not finish high school, and they definitely usually did not have any college education. And they're expected to survive back in this society. And I don't think that it's right how the incarcerated are ignored. and abused. And yes, they have done wrong things. I'm not discounting any wrong that any offender does, but I am saying that what is the answer? What is the solution to, solving this problem so that they do not reoffend? I definitely believe that there needs to be some programs put in place, helping them while they're in the system. And even another big issue that I wanted to bring out about those who are incarcerated, a lot of people that are incarcerated and also those who are homeless have some mental illness. And it's not saying everybody, but people put a blind eye to that something is wrong as to why they are committing these crimes. A lot of times they don't have access to health care, medical, so that they can get diagnosed. So a lot of times they have, they're schizophrenic, bipolar, or OCD, lots of other, they got a lot of issues going on. And that's not an excuse, but it's the reality that there are a lot of things that the incarcerated and the homeless do because they're in need of health care, they're in need of some mental health services, even providing things like therapy. That's something that they're kind of just throwing out there, um, in society, the incarcerated, when they do get released eventually. And it's the reason sometimes, why they unalive themselves. They just can't cope with this life, and especially if their mental is not up to par. And I also wanted to go into, talking about another, population that is ignored and abused, and that is the homeless. The homeless is ignored and abused. And I want to share the information that I found on Google about the homeless. What is the population of the homeless? And then I'm also going to talk about what it is that we could probably do to help the homeless. Let me see that if it's sharing. Okay, it's sharing. Okay, so they're saying that there is 653,104 people experiencing homelessness in the US in 2023. That is an increase of 12% over last year. There was a hundred 111,620 children who were without homes in America last year. Homelessness has increased in 41 states between 2022 to 2023, with New Hampshire, New Mexico, and New York having the highest percentage of homelessness. And every ethnic group has endured an increase of homelessness last year, but the Asian community experienced the most significant percentage increase of 64%, while Latinos and Hispanics saw the most significant surge in raw numbers. And I found that to be very surprising because it's not something that I was even thinking, that let me go back to it, that there was a big problem in the Asian community with homelessness. I didn't even consider that. I personally thought in my mind, urban communities, African Americans, I thought that that would be the highest, but it's not. The highest population of the homeless is the Asian population. And that was surprising to me because I don't know, it's in my mind. And I hope that it doesn't sound like I'm stereotyping, but I always tended to think that in the Asian populations that they were very supportive and helpful. But I don't know, things are changing. And nobody wants to talk about the elephant in the room, the that all of the issues that happened during the pandemic, and even though they say the pandemic is over, I have a different opinion. But they say that it has that everything's okay, everything's fine. But what about all of the people now that have lost jobs, that have lost the main people who have taken care of them? And nobody really talks about the ones that have aged out the system and become homeless, the ones that have mental illness, and they were taken care of by an older family member, and now that older family member is no longer alive. So what happens to those in this community? They're ignored. Everybody says that they're an adult, they need to take care of themselves. But how can a person who has these mental health issues, how can these that don't have the right education or don't have the right resources be able to survive and deal with this? The answer is that they can't, and they don't. And when a person is outdoors for any period of time, they become homeless. It's hard for them to re-enter society. And we see them every day. We see the homeless every single day. I know I do. When you're passing by, and we see them, going through the trash for food. Um, a lot of times the homeless are also those who have served the country. They have been in some form of the military, and that gave them some issues. Or when they got out of the military, they were handicapped, and sometimes the veterans are not given the resources that they need either. And that's another demographic that is ignored and abused. They did their best to serve the country, but afterwards, it's like they didn't do anything. They're just thrown out there, and they're just going to have to deal with it, like they didn't go and risk their life for their country. It's infuriating to me. It's frustrating. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And it saddens me a lot that they change their whole life, especially the ones that come back and they're missing limbs, and now they have other issues like PTSD, and lots of other things. And they, however long that they have been in, they of course probably did not get the education that they needed, so they're not able to actually go back because they can't, or they are just now not in a space mentally to be able to handle the day-to-day of working. And I really feel sad for the homeless. Yes, sometimes there are some people that choose it. I'm not saying that there aren't some that choose it because they rather not be in the system, but there are some that have been homeless because of their mental health issues. They're homeless because of being incarcerated, or a combination of many things. And I don't think that anybody deserves to be going through the garbage for food. Um, there has to be, all of these. I see lots of buildings that are left empty. And I do think that a big issue is a lot of greed in today's society, a lot of greed, causing them to only think about the money. But why isn't there government funding for making big facilities for those who are homeless so that they can have a place to stay? Not saying that everybody would want to go in there, because some rather be outside than to be inside. But what about the ones that actually want those things? They should be available and provided for them. But there is a lot of red tape. There are a lot of things, but there's a lot of qualifying. And with that mental illness, some actually don't have the education. Some people can't write, some can't read. It sounds like something ridiculous to say, because we think when we are operating on that level that everybody must be able to read and to write. But there are so many people that are illiterate, and they just can't do the regular things like we take for granted, like reading and writing. So how could they actually fill out application to get a job? How could they get into an apartment building? How can they get those things unless they know how to do it? And my heart breaks for the ones that I see going through the garbage can. When I think about I'm in my warm house, and especially when it's raining, or right now because of the winter, they're outside because they have nowhere to go. It's snowing, ice on the ground, or raining, or whatever inclement conditions that are out there, and they're just outside. There's nothing provided for them. There's no help. And yes, there are many who don't want help. They want to stay outside. But what about the ones that don't? What about the ones that they just want some food? Even thinking about things like that, because of all of the things that has happened since the pandemic. So many things like pantries, soup kitchens, and support things for the homeless and the incarcerated have been cut because they say that there's no more funding. And I don't understand why there is less funding and there is a growing need. To me, I feel like the root cause of all of this is greed. The higher ups in society, in government, really don't care about the ones that are underneath them, below them. They're only thinking about lining their pockets, and as long as they're okay, they turn a blind eye to everybody else. And I know that I've seen people on my day to day, going to the store, doing this. And I'm not going to even lie to you that sometimes I get irritated. I even feel afraid because I feel like maybe they're going to rob me, maybe they're going to hurt me. But they're human beings just like everybody else. They're human beings. Yes, they're human beings. They shouldn't be ignored. They shouldn't be treated like they're nothing. Thank you so much for the like, Miss Tamika. They shouldn't be ignored. They deserve to be thought of. They deserve to be cared for. And especially going back to those who are homeless, and thinking about those who age out of the system, the ones that were in foster care. And I don't know if everybody is on that knowledge that once a child has been in the system and they turn 18, they don't set them up, they don't help them. They say you're 18 now, you're grown. And that's another problem. Why are the ones that have never had a home, never have been adopted, now they're put out, and now they become homeless? And then it becomes that it's a cycle of more and more problems. And because they're outside, they have no money, they start committing crimes, they start getting involved in substances. I don't want to say that word on my platform, but they start taking substances that they should not, because just trying to cope with life. And unless you have been through something, you really can't understand. It's easy for people to judge people that are homeless, the ones that have been incarcerated. But unless you're in that situation, unless you go through certain things, you can't really get it unless it's you. And I know a few people who have been in the system. I don't know if everybody has taken the poll, but I know a few people who have been in the system. Some are still in the system and some have been released. And I've seen when they have got back into society, there's not much support. Honestly, they have to depend on their family to get them back, get them a place to stay and to live. And if they want to work, which sometimes they can't because now they have mental illness issues because of being incarcerated. They have PTSD and other issues. if they don't already have some mental illness, but everybody ignores them. They ignore the problem. And like I said, it's still going to grow. It's still going to happen. And in talking about the children that age out the system from foster care, I see them all the time that when they get into the streets, then they start getting into prostitution. They get into, they become dealers. They do a lot of things that no child really should have to, because sometimes um, people are homeless because they're running away from terrible home environments. They rather live on the street than to be, you know, hit and assaulted and everything that they may have to endure at home. So they feel like the streets is a better and safer place than being in that environment. And my heart breaks for those who have to endure so many things. And we really don't think about the population of the homeless that is from those who have been in DV situations. You know, the DV population is growing because people are more stressed, and it's causing more people to take out their anger and frustration in the wrong way on other people that they supposedly love, and more situations. So they have to, a lot of the women and even the men, I'm not leaving nobody out. There are men and women that get abused on a day to day. They get their hands put on them. They get verbally abused as well. And they try to run away. And unfortunately, sometimes it's not always successful. Some try to get out of DV situations and the offender unalives them. And that breaks my heart. And I know that it's happening every day. The amount of people that get unalived every day because of DV, another a situation in life where people ignore and abuse them. And another population that is ignored and abused is the elderly, the older population. And the older population, um, I really love them. I have a special place in my heart for the older ones because they have a lot of wisdom and experience. And I feel like so many of them have put their whole life into raising families. Some have been in the military. Some have become very big figures in society, you know, inventing things, um, doing the skills now that I feel like is a dying art. You know, people who are seamstresses, um, people who are skilled labor. I've seen so much now that the younger people are not getting involved in doing these skills. So these skills now are becoming, I don't know, like ended. Like they can't find anybody to do that because the younger population does not want to do that. But going back to the topic about, you know, the elderly being ignored and abused, I've seen it all the time working in hospital or nursing homes, um, just wherever they are, even in their homes, and they don't have their home is not in the best conditions because they can no longer care for themselves. Sometimes the because of the income of the elderly, they're living on this fixed income. They don't even have food to eat. Um, and not all the elderly population have children. So really, who is going to check on them and care for them? One of the saddest things that I ever heard is some of the elderly population is eating pet food. They're eating dog food and cat food to survive because of it being cheaper than other food. That's not something that should ever happen. Another situation and case where that population, that demographic is ignored and abused, and especially the things that I see in healthcare facilities like not getting adequate care. Many times there's a lot of they're not getting bathed and clothed and taken care of, or the conditions in it's not a clean environment. So much things that they would have to put up with. And I've really, my heart breaks for the elderly population. I see them sitting down in their wheelchairs, and some of them have been put out their homes and put into these facilities, and they have nobody to come by and see them and visit and talk to them. Um, Ignored and abused. Another demographic that has been thrown away in today's society. And the last population that I want to talk about that has been ignored and abused is the special needs. The special needs population is a very important and very special. It's near and dear to my heart because I have a special needs a family member, and the things that I see, the things that they have to go through, and how they get treated, like they're nobody, like they're stupid. Everybody's irritated. People lack patience. There's no customer service skills. Just the lack of compassion in general, not just from other people in the community and in the neighborhoods, but also in the medical staff, like doctors, caregivers. And a lot of it is incompetence, some of it is ignorance, but usually the biggest issue is they lack compassion. I always think about how that must feel to be special needs, wanting to voice what you're going through, and sometimes some of them do not speak, they don't talk, um, and they're mute, but they're still people. They still have issues, they have problems, they need care, they need love, just like the homeless, just like the elderly population, just like those who are incarcerated. And somebody has to think about them. So, I just want to give some of my thoughts, some of my ideas about what I think, what I believe should happen. And I definitely believe that those who are incarcerated, there needs to be programs to get them so that they can get acclimated. Okay, when I get released, this is what I'm going to do. This is where I'm going to live. There are places like halfway houses that will help those who get out of the system, but then that's it, and they only give them a short period of time, and then those programs have been cut. The funding ends, and the homeless. It saddens me that there aren't places that they could go to even have simple necessities like taking a shower, washing their clothes, and getting some food to eat. Even if it just started with that, I do believe that there needs to be some reforms, and we're paying for it. We pay for certain things from our tax dollars, and some of them have been in the working world and have contributed to it. And then when it's your time and you need it, you have to go through so much loopholes and red tape in order to get the things that you actually need. And also, in speaking of those who age out the system, people always think about, when it comes to adopting the babies, or the ones that are like 1 or 2 years old, but they don't think about the older children. They need to be adopted as well. That's a topic that is very near and dear to my heart as well. I really love those who are unseen by today's society. I care for them. It's a soft place in my heart. Those who have been in the system, those who have been ignored and abused, somebody has to love them. Somebody has to treat them like they are somebody, and not just ignore them and throw them away. So, just something I was thinking about today. I'm not doing a long live stream. I just wanted to come in and get this thoughts and ideas out of my head, and to ask if you guys have thought about something like this and what you think. What is the solution to the ignored and abused, the elderly, the homeless, the special needs, those who have been thrown away from the um, from the system of not being adopted, or those who have served our country, the veterans, who's going to support and love them? Somebody has to, but it's conversations like this that I think is really important to have. Over here on the Marlene Saunders Show, I have real talk, real conversations. And if you have not subscribed already, subscribe to this channel. I go live Monday to Friday on the podcast, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, those who are tuning in live and those who watch in the replay. Leave me a comment in the comment section, your solution that you think would really help. It takes the conversations, it takes those who will speak up and advocate for these ignored and abused. And also, when we see them, treat them kindly, treat them like a human being, because you never know if that could be you. That's always going to be somebody's mother, father, or child. Thank you for tuning in today. And if you have not left a like on the way in, please leave a like on the way out. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And thank you so much for tuning in to today's podcast. And I will definitely see you on tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you later. Thank you for tuning into the Marlene Saunders Show, where we have real talk, real conversations, and you're welcome to it. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye, guys.